Hi, this is the Balanced Singer Podcast, and I'm your host, Kyle Ferrill. If you've read or watched my materials, you probably know that I'm a huge fan of the Royal Conservatory of Music's vocal syllabus. It is an absolute treasure trove, particularly for a new voice teacher. It helps break down the overwhelming mountain of repertoire, dividing songs into levels. Think of them as difficulty or sophistication levels. It does the very same thing with vocal exercises, sight singing exercises, chord and interval identification, etc., etc. I don't use it exclusively in my repertoire assignment process, but I refer to it constantly, and I desperately wish I'd have known about it when I launched my teaching career. It would have saved me from many overreaching repertoire assignments in my early years. Well, let's switch gears from the classical world in which RCM largely operates. It should be noted that the syllabus does include some musical theater repertoire, but its primary orientation is classical. And let's talk about, instead, contemporary music. RCM's Canadian neighbor, Conservatory Canada, has developed a syllabus called Contemporary Idioms. The idea here is very similar, a scaffolded, tiered approach to developing repertoire, improvisation, musicianship skills, etc., but this time for CCM. And if you're not familiar with that term in this context, contemporary commercial music for CCM singers. I have dived headfirst into this syllabus for my students who are primarily non-classical singers, and it is fabulous. Some observations. The musical theater offerings do an excellent job of spanning from Golden Age musical theater all the way to quite modern offerings. The pop offerings do the same, though it appears that the most recent additions are a few years old. Now, it would obviously be quite a task to keep the list absolutely up to date in this manner, so that's a really tiny quibble. The first 6 levels of the 8 total levels all have lead sheets included that provide a resource to teach and practice improvisations. These are brilliantly done, and if a student worked through them sequentially, it's clear that they would develop wonderful and varied improvisation skills, and they'd be familiar with reading the particular notation of lead sheets. They also provide backing tracks for these improvisation exercises. Another observation. I see this syllabus, like the RCM syllabus, as being a tool I not only use as a teacher, but that I share with my students. As a student, I would have loved to have such a list, to aspire towards the repertoire at level 7 while I'm currently singing level 6, for instance. I think there's an enormous opportunity to teach repertoire discernment here, too. If a student says, "Why can't I sing XYZ?" the teacher can lead a discussion about, well, let's try to figure out why this song is rated 2 levels above where you are right now. My goal is to teach my students to not need me, to teach them to be independent and able to construct their own exercise routine, to be able one day to pick their own repertoire that is appropriate for their voices, etc. So by taking the time to have these conversations throughout their development, the groundwork for their independence is being laid. Another observation. In addition to voice, Contemporary Idioms also has a piano and guitar syllabus. So I can imagine a singer-songwriter who could be simultaneously developing their vocal skills and their other instrument, whether that be piano or guitar or both. The possibility for musical development is simply astronomical. And my final observation, Conservatory Canada, like RCM, also has a music history and music theory syllabus as well. Now that syllabus is rooted in classical music, but the crossover skills would be invaluable. I hope it's clear just how useful the Contemporary Idioms voice syllabus can be to student and teacher alike. And perhaps the best part is, like the RCM syllabus, this resource is totally free. You can just download the PDFs off the internet. In both cases, students can choose to undertake exams to get certificates for each level, and that part is not free. But even if a student or teacher used the syllabus without the examinations, the full fruit of the program could be realized. I'd love to hear your feedback on this program if you've used it, or if you decide to use it as a result of listening to this podcast or watching this video. Please stay in touch. Here's a link to the homepage for the Contemporary Idioms voice syllabus. I'll put it in the show notes for both the podcast and the video. Thanks so much for watching and listening. I'm Kyle Ferrill with the Balanced Singer Podcast.